So hello, my name's Rob and this is Cattle Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made this cool sewer type cobblestone town-esque base. These are really cool, they're nice and flat, they're fairly easy to do, just a little bit time consuming. Miniatures sit on them really well, but they do give a really cool effect. You will need some things for this video. I will go through that as I go through it, but I will leave everything listed in the description below. This was great fun. I really just wanted to make something in this video, so I kind of came up with this cool little sculpted base. So without further ado, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get started. So first thing I'm going to need is a base. Obviously you're doing a base, fantastic. If you're going to do this on a bigger scale, I probably would advise against it, but it's definitely doable. But I had this cool miniature that I just wanted to fit on there. I wanted to add a little bit of detail to the base, whatever. So Plasticard. This I got from Green Stuff World. This is 1mm thick Plasticard. It's really easy to work with. It's quite fun to use as well. It sticks down really well. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly, just eyeballing about, I don't know, 5mm thickness. I'm going to score the Plasticard a couple of times. And then literally all I do is I just fold it over. And you can see how easy it just kind of comes away. It's really easy to work with this stuff. The nice thing about it, super glues work really well with this. Plasticard isn't something I normally use, but I do always have some on hand. And I think it's a great tool. I think I'm definitely going to start using Plasticard more in the future to sculpt stuff. But then all I'm going to do, and I am going to do this multiple times, I just kind of get my ruler and I'm going to go for about 1 centimetre in width, and all I'm going to do is with a sharp hobby knife I'm just going to roughly get a point. I'm not worried about keeping these straight, I'm not worried about everything being even, as I wanted that kind of higgledy cobblestone look. Once I've got my little piece of rectangular Plasticard, the nice thing about this is you can cut them, and for this all I'm going to do is I'm just going to work around it with my hobby knife. This is the time consuming part, and this is why I probably advise you doing this on a bigger scale. However, the nice thing about this, if you did, everything would sit nice and flat. See, sometimes when you make terrain, miniatures sometimes have a hard time standing on it. So if you were just going to make this on a board or something, it will look nice, and it's really durable as well, but it is just time consuming. So I've now made all of the little cobblestone pieces that I need. I did have some left over in the end, but the next step is really just to kind of get my base. And all I'm going to do with my ruler, I'm just going to get a pen and I'm just going to mark out every 1/2 centimetre or so in width. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm not worried about everything being straight or even looking that straight, but it just acts as a little bit of guide just so I know where to put my rows so they do sit kind of evenly next to each other. As you can see here, I've got little guides on here, and that I will use as, you know, markers for my columns. The next thing is to get some super glue thin. For this I'm going to be using Tamiya super glue thin. It's really good. It sticks Plasticard down really well. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to get a big splodge on it. Be generous with this stuff. Don't worry, it's not going to melt or anything like that. And I'm just going to place my first one, making sure it's fairly straight. Once again, I'm only doing this by eye, but this is going to act as a little bit of a guide. And then I'm going to repeat the process in rows, as you can see here. Just working my way, just in sections, making sure it looks even-ish. Once again, if you are just doing this on bases, don't worry too much about it being spot on, as you know, the painting's going to cover it, and it's as long as it looks even, you should be okay. So that's our base, and as you can see, some bits do overlap, and I have trimmed some down for the edges. Don't worry too much. Obviously, once this is fully dry, all I do is I get some hobby snippers and I just clip away any of the excess. I'm not worried about getting it perfect because I'm just going to run a file around it in a bit and just shave off those last kind of uneven bits so it sits nice and round on my base. There we go. Now, one thing we can do to add a little bit of detail to these, as they are, you know, quite flat, is I do go over with some of the Tamiya extra thin cement. This will just add a little bit of texture. You can put big blobs on. The way this glue works is it does melt the plastic ever so slightly, so you can do a few passes. You can really kind of go at this and just add a little bit of shape to these and just a little bit of texture, which is just going to help sell the effect, but this step isn't really required. So there's our base, and the next step is I'm going to get some poly filler. Now this is the quick drying stuff. This is Spackle in the US. It's just wall filler, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to get some on my finger, and I'm really going to push it, almost like I'm grouting tiles. And I'm just going to push it in, making sure that I get it all in the gaps. You can wet your finger with this so it runs a little bit looser, if you will. Don't worry, because we're going to paint this anyway and we're going to spray it. But all I'm going to do is really massage it in. And I am pushing down quite hard on my finger, as I do want the grout or cement, as this is replicating, to be a bit lower than the stone. So you can really push it in and just kind of get some a bit of height and a bit of depth with it. Now it's a little bit hard to see here. I didn't realise the footage was like this when I did record it, but if you catch it in the light, you can kind of see that it's kind of got that cool effect. Once again, this does dry really quickly, but I do just come in with my finger and I push down that grout, so you've kind of got that cool cemented look, which is really what we want. So everything's now dry, and what I am going to do is I'm just going to scratch in with a hobby knife, little dinks and things like that. You can do as much as you want with these. I mean, you could have used some different size Plasticard to make different size little stones and stuff like that. I kind of wish I would have done that anyway, but I only had 1 mil at hand. But I do just chip in and I cut away bits with my knife, and then obviously I do just get a little file and I finish off that nice edge so it's nice and round. And there we go. Another thing you can do is I just get the edge of, I've got a broken file here, I always use it. I can just scratch away some of the grout. This will just add a little bit of difference and just a bit of visual interest. These are never the most, I guess, interesting bases, if you will, but obviously it does help just to add a little bit of detail. Next up, I'm going to spray it with Raven Black from the Colour Forge, and this is just to kind of get everything uniform. And as you can see here, you can see some of the detail. All those little scratches, dinks and chips, it's starting to look quite cool. Now there's a few ways I can paint this. I wanted to go for a bit of a greeny, sewery type base, as it really complemented the miniature that I was going to paint up. So what I did was I got 5 or 6 paints, just varying colours, all the way from a light colour to a very dark colour. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to randomly paint them, as you can see here, in odd colours. This will just help break it up and kind of just add, once again, that little visual interest. Then I'm going to get Astra Militarum Green and Rattling Grime contrast paints. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little mix. Now, I really like Rattling Grime. It sits somewhere between Nuln Oil and Agrax Earthshade, and it's really, really great to work with. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a paintbrush full of one, a paintbrush full of the other, and I'm going to add a load of water. The reason why I'm using water and medium is because what it will do is actually it will make the contrast paints dry a little bit patchy, which is great for what I'm doing here, as it gives a really inconsistent look. I do add a little bit more green, as I do want to keep it more towards green, and I add a lot of water to it. Then the next step is, once it's all mixed up and I'm happy, is literally just cover the entire base. Now I know what some people are thinking, oh my god, you've ruined it. Don't worry, because it's diluted down so heavily, it's not going to be as aggressive. We will still see some of those colours coming through. Obviously I'm using greens. If you are using greys and stuff like that, you could probably just do Rattling Grime on its own, or mix it with a little bit of something like Apothecary White. There's lots of combinations you can do here. I do add a little bit of water just to certain spots, so the contrast doesn't dry as hard or as consistent, as I really wanted that odd kind of dirty, inconsistent look. Next up, once everything was dry, I do come in with one of my mid-tones. I think I use Strachan green here, And I've got these really big chunky brushes from the Army Painter. I really like these. They've got a really good bristle on them and they do kind of hold the paint really, really well. Now for dry brushing, all I want to do is catch those details. I'm not trying to colour anything. All I'm trying to do is just make sure everything looks a little bit kind of cohesive. And for this, I'm just removing as much paint from my brush as I can. And it's about that consistency that I want. And all I'm doing is flicking over everything. The reason why I do a mid-tone is it is smack bang in the middle of everything. So it will tie the darker and the lighter colours together and it will kind of unify them. So this is a really, really good kind of tip, I guess, for people that sometimes might not know what colours to do. You can go for like a bone or anything like that, but I wanted to stay on the greeny side. And then same again, it started to kind of bring up those edges. I am just going to come in with cream khaki. This is like almost like a sickly yellowy green. It's a really, really lovely colour actually for this type of thing. And this is going to be my final colour that I put on. Same again, I'm just removing as much excess as I can. I'm not too worried about mixing it in with the green a little bit, just to kind of lean in towards that mid-tone colour. And then same again, I'm just going to flick it back and forth, catching all of those edges. All I'm trying to do here is make sure that my dry brush is highlighting the stones, as you can see. And there it is. Once again, there's a lot of easy steps here and it is very easy to do. It is just a little bit time consuming, especially when it comes down to trimming all of the little stones and things like that. However, once again, this is quite a versatile little pattern or method, as you can paint these in a variety of colours and get loads of different effects if you want to. I think with this one, I'm going to add a little bit of gloss varnish over mine, just to kind of give it a little bit of a damp shine. So obviously being sewer based, it will look a little bit wet and a little bit damp, which is really what I want. And once again, my miniature sits lovely and flat on it. Super fun to do, and it was really enjoyable just making something for a change. As always, I'll leave everything in the description below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. That's it for me in this one. I'll see you all next time. God bless and take care.